city planners say Port Moresby faces threats of unplanned developments. Australian police appreciated for community policing work. And construction of venues take shape as 2015 draws closer.
This is National EMTV News with Tokana Hasavi.
A very good evening to you and welcome to Monday's news. Thanks for joining us. Port Moresby is facing a major problem in its physical planning. In a report by the Strategic Planning Section of NCDC, the city faces threats of unplanned patterns of development in the socio-economic and physical environment. The Commission is now working on a mechanism to safeguard its plans of urban development in the city.
Port Moresby has grown from low-lying buildings to tower-rising scrapers. A lot of change is visible with buildings and movement of people in and around the city perimeter. And with the government building major infrastructures in the city, a lot of pressure is being placed on the management of NCDC to regulate the city's growth. However, all these factors are putting pressure on the freeing up of unzoned land for development. The National Capital District Commission is now on its toes to prepare a more comprehensive urban development plan since the current one is outdated. These will include a study into approximately 25,000 hectares of existing land, 60% of which is state-owned and 40% customary. Imminently, the trend for unplanned patterns of development is casting a grey cloud over NCD's urban development plan. But the proactive plan will now capture the history of NCD's growth, physical environment, land use pattern and policy framework. All these struggles and preparations will need to be sorted as the country prepares to host the 2015 Pacific Games, 2018 APEC meeting and the expansion and delivery of services to people in NCD's 3 electorates. Jack Lepavit Jr., National EMTV News.
The casual employees of Port Moresby General Hospital who went on strike last week over unpaid fortnightly salaries have returned to work. Their wages had been sorted out today, but long-serving members are still not satisfied after not receiving any Christmas bonus and travel warrants.
On Christmas Day, these casual workers at Port Moresby General Hospital went on strike regarding their fortnightly wages. While others were celebrating, these workers were on duty to clean the hospital's rubbish. Many of them came to work that day on an empty stomach. EMTV was prevented to document any visuals inside, but outside the hospital premises, these workers have expressed their intentions fully.
Pay blum plus about logo said one time all public servants all kisim. Mi plus aksim lo Thursday na all public servants also aksim lo Wednesday. Na some time sa take him go Friday na about late afternoon straight na plus aksim na.
All to mi plus go ATM. Mi plus go check him ATM no gat. Public servants all kisim. No benefit no amma enjoy lo Christmas. Na mi plus why?
Na mi plus keme yeblo mi plus kili mi plus nati lo public service ya.
Go CEO to mi plus no ga wala public servant lo ya. Ausik instead of pom jonas no na public servant. A doctor or nurse no public servant. Or payment worker na casualties all. This company or run by government.
Today they returned to work. Their fortnightly wage has been sorted, but long-serving members are still not satisfied. They say their outstanding claims were not sorted out and they missed out on any Christmas bonuses. They request the Health Minister Michael Malabag to seriously look into their working conditions and address some issues surrounding their welfare. Quinton Alomp, National EMTV News.
Lives of security personnel monitoring the Laluki-Bituna checkpoint outside of Port Moresby are at risk. This is because smugglers trading biturnut across the checkpoint have continuously threatened them using offensive weapons. Dick Ello, a reserve police constable, spoke of the ordeal.
Authorized security personnel stationed at Laluki checkpoint to effect the biturnut ban in NCD have been threatened by biturnut smugglers. While checking vehicles, they have confiscated and destroyed bitternuts in bags. These bitternuts were brought in from as far as Central and Gulf provinces.
But planting plolo give up na losing finish because or paying penalty na on
several occasions, bitternut smugglers have used offensive weapons to intimidate security personnel to forcefully smuggle betel nuts into NCD.
Lulu plomio se morrenzas na ol policeman tu limista posem. Lulu se mem risky em boem live lolman silip grab na uslakaina.
Many were not able to move around freely because of continuous threats and harassment from betel nut smugglers. Eric Arupma, National MTV News.
Lay police have intensified awareness efforts against the use of imported firecrackers as the new year approaches. This follows instances where people have been injured by exploding firecrackers. Police say they will come down hard on offenders who use the firecrackers. Nearly all the firecrackers come from across the border from Indonesia.
We want them to stop trading now. It is very dangerous. Once it is used against a person, it will cause death, injury, and damage of properties. So particularly firecracker is very dangerous because it will cause a lot of problems amongst the communities. So that's why we are going around doing a free awareness campaign.
This month will mark a year since the arrival of the Australian Federal Police in Papua New Guinea. Out of the 59 men sent to PNG, 13 were sent to Lae to assist in advisory roles in the areas of management, supervision and community policing. The head of the Lae Police Contingent, Acting Superintendent Peter Murphy, have expressed appreciation for a successful year of police work with PNGRC in Lae.
Although the 13-man team may not seem adequate in a growing city like Lae, their contribution to the Lae police force has been noticeable. Since arriving in Lae in December 2013, the 13 AFP personnel have assisted in advisory roles. But the biggest achievement for this year, the team leader Peter Murphy says, was the implementation of a cell management system that put an end to unauthorized release of prisoners prevalent at some of the police lockups in the city. Tell us a bit about the experiences and the works of AFP in Lae.
One of the significant achievements we've had is the cell management system, which has been introduced into the cells at the Lae police station. This is a computerised system that records the ins and outs of the cells. It takes a photograph of prisoners as they're entered into the cells, and it also ensures there's a judicial process behind the incarceration of any person.
The AFP has helped the RPNGC carry out some of the biggest security operations in Lae, including the Moresby Show and the recent PNG Games.
The community response to us has been exceptionally positive. We've been really impressed and very much welcomed into this community, and we hope that continues. So it's been a very positive response to our involvement.
Lae has been battling a battered image as a crime spot. Although the AFP has no legal powers to arrest and charge, their role in the police sector has contributed a lot in the areas of management, community policing and supervision. The AFP's contribution in helping police personnel maintain order in Lae's surrounding communities has gained positive responses from these communities. Colleen Barilai, National MTV News, Lae.
National Petroleum Company increases assets, first ever road construction of Warrior LLG in Moresby Province, and Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe re-elected. Those stories and more after the break. Stay with us. Good to have you back with the news. The National Petroleum Company of PNG has increased its assets with major purchases in the hydrocarbon sector. The expansion of NPCP's portfolio was achieved through the acquisition of QPNG Oil Company at a cost of $7 million. This is the state-owned entity's first major commercial transaction outside of its PNG LNG project-related business.
High-risk exploration area. At a media conference this afternoon, Managing Director of the National Petroleum Company of PNG, Wapu Song, announced major purchases growing the company's portfolio. National Petroleum Company of PNG purchased over 5% of PDL3 Southeast Gobe, over 3% of Southeast Gobe Unit, over 14% of PRL9 Barikewa, and over 10% of PRL14 Cobra, Yehi and Bilip. Mr. Song said the acquisition is in line with the company's focus on developing the opportunities within the hydrocarbon sector.
We wanted to make an announcement on the purchase of Q interest in PNG, basically 100% of Q's assets in PNG. So these discoveries are strategically positioned where we can basically look at synergies in developing the gas fields.
When asked about the concerns of low oil prices on the global market and the potential drawbacks, Mr. Song said he was confident that prices will pick up again.
The US and Saudi Arabia, which is a main player in the OPEC, so it probably has bottomed out and it's probably going to start climbing back up, but probably not in the $100 per barrel range. It probably will come back up to 80-ish.
He explained that the fair market value of the portfolio is significant, adding there are several options available to monetize the gas for power generation, export and petrochemical activities. The transaction is subject to final government approvals. NPCP is the state's nominee in the ExxonMobil-operated PNG LNG project, having 16.5% participating interest. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
Bulolo MP Sam Basil has announced a 12-month plan which will see the construction of a road into parts of the Warrior LLG for the first time ever. The mobilization of equipment, which began last year, will resume after the festive period. The roads in some parts of the electorate have been the subject of controversy after it was highlighted that while money has been paid, not much work had been done.
Over the next 12 months, Wow Town and the roads leading from it to other rural areas will be upgraded. It comes after a lot of controversy this year when it was highlighted that some of the contractors had done substandard work. The works program will include key parts of the Warrior local level government area, a region largely cut off due to the absence of roads.
Yeah, we've completed the stand-down area in Mumeng. We managed to store 30,000 liters of fuel. We've moved on to Wow. And before we move into Biaru Road, we have to fix Wow Town. So it will be like fixing the ladder up. We can't ignore Wow Town and we can't ignore the rest of the road along the way. So
work will also begin on the Wow Biaru Road. This is an important link to Bulolo's coffee growing areas. It's also where a large collection of the district's population resides.
They will be moving from Wow to the first section of the Warrior Road, which is Biaru Road. They will be stationed at Warabung. They will do resheeting from Winima to Elaru to Warabung, and then they will move further up to Warakawar. And
by the end of December 2015, this road is expected to see significant improvements. Bridges like this important link destroyed by flooding will be replaced. In 2014, Bulolo district struggled with the slow release of district development funds. In 2015, Bulolo MP Sam Basil says he expects the same but will continue to facilitate development programs. Scott Waide, National EMTV News, Lae.
While Christmas in big cities are celebrated with drinking parties and feasts, there are also celebrations in many small villages in Papua New Guinea. Busamang villages in Salamau, Moresby province, use the festive period to bring together families and socialize in their community. A sporting tournament, church service or a day out at sea are some of their many activities.
Busamang village is located a few kilometers away from Lae City. A 30-minute boat ride across the Yuan Peninsula will lead you to this wide sandy beach. This is home to almost 5,000 people, and the village stretches for about 20 kilometers along the southern coastline of Salamaua. Every Christmas, the Busamang people don't go out of the village to celebrate, not even into Lae City.
Anytime Christmas, we plan to go around some so Busamang you will enjoy good Christmas.
A Christmas sporting tournament is also brought together nearby villages, and many people have traveled into Busamang to be part of these celebrations. Many people spend time at the beach, while some gathered at the village market with their families.
Christmas you enjoy the place, Busamang alright. You got sports, That with the western on ambis, you can wash, you can stabilize view. Have all them know that. So anytime no Christmas, me plan to go around to some lab. So
being a maritime village, fishing is an integral part of this community. The sea itself generates much of the income for the community. Access to digital mobile coverage and post banking services have also made it easier for the people from traveling into Lae City. The community's Christmas celebrations were peaceful, and the new year is expected to be welcomed in the true spirit of unity. Sylvester Gawi, National EMTV News, Lae.
The tradition of feeding clans practiced by Motuan villagers is seen as a burden to some clansmen. Ken Rabura of Kirakira village in Port Moresby wants this practice abolished. He says such a traditional practice is costly.
While some traditional practices may seem relevant, others are becoming a painstaking task. The traditional practice of clan feeding, often practiced by Motuan villages during Christmas, has been identified as one of these. Ken Rabura, leader of the Badu clan in Kirakira village, expressed his frustration over this traditional practice.
When it comes to the last clan, Pasim is kind of look at him. Look at him, Panemia, cleansing. Because yesterday was good, because Papa Mama all get garden food. That will supplement whatever little money to buy. Or they go hunting, so it's better. But now, everything is money. It's very, very hard.
Badu clan is the smallest of the 4 clans in Kirakira village, consisting of only 7 households. This year they were chosen to feed the whole village. However, it has not been easy. 85% of his clan members are unemployed. Regardless of this, they are obliged to carry out this task, depending entirely on outside support.
And probably 85% to 90% of my clan people don't work. They are unemployed. So we have found it very, very difficult. But there were some generous people who are giving some money, giving some help both in kind and then in cash.
Though Ken may propose to abolish this traditional practice in Kirakira village, he is aware that there could be resistance from other clans, and the decision will depend on common understanding from the whole village on whether to keep the traditional practice or abolish it. Mickey Cavera, National EMTV News.
Prime Minister Peter O'Neill has congratulated the Prime Minister of Japan, Shinzo Abe, following his re-election this month. In his congratulatory letter, Mr. O'Neill also highlighted the ongoing strengthening of ties between Japan and PNG. He said Papua New Guinea values the partnership with Japan and looks forward to this continuing to strengthen with Shinzo Abe as Japan's Prime Minister.
In his letter, Prime Minister O'Neill congratulated Japan's Prime Minister Abe on the large proportion of the vote received by the ruling coalition. Mr. O'Neill said the visit by Shinzo Abe and his delegation to PNG in July this year demonstrated Japan's wish to be active in trade and enhance developments in the Pacific. Mr. O'Neill said in his letter that Papua New Guinea's trading relationship with Japan continues to expand, with the Asian country being the first recipient of PNG's first LNG shipment. Japan is delivering 20 million yen, equal to 428 million kina development package to PNG over a 3-year period. The package covers areas such as education, health, infrastructure, law and order, rural development and fisheries. Prime Minister O'Neill said he looks forward to meeting Prime Minister Abe in 2015. Delhi Bagu, National EMTV News.
And now we check out the finance news. The kina closed unchanged at $0.387 in the interbank market, and at Bank South Pacific, your kina was buying $0.3795 $0.4638 Australian dollars, $0.3082 euro, and 45.24 Japanese yen. Looking at commodity prices at New York close, gold closed higher, coffee and cocoa closed lower, and copper closed the day unchanged. Palm oil closed higher, while crude oil and copper closed lower. And finally, on the stock market, the Dow Jones closed at 29 points higher, the ASX closed at 3 points higher, and the All Ordinaries closed at 54 points higher. And when we come back, the latest on AirAsia's missing plane and other stories making headlines overseas. Stay tuned. Good to have you back with the news. We now take a look at news making headlines overseas. Another plane has vanished over Southeast Asian waters. Flight 8501 was flying from Surabaya in Indonesia to Singapore. The jetliner carrying 162 passengers is still missing and believed to be at the bottom of the sea. Several nations are taking part in the search.
There are only tears and heartache on the ground and fading hopes in the air as the search continues for any sign of missing AirAsia flight QZ 8501.
The weather conditions were not good, but further than that, we don't really want to speculate anything more.
A growing international effort has been rapidly mobilised to search for the Airbus A320. Indonesian, Malaysian and Singaporean planes and ships are scouring the ocean and coastlines along the passenger jet's route. Australia has now sent a long-range Orion search and communications aircraft to join the hunt. It arrived this afternoon in the search zone.
We will make ourselves as available as we can be until the wreckage is located, and we're certainly prepared to assist with the recovery and any investigation as well.
Indonesia's chief aviation official now admits the tragic reality: the plane has met a catastrophic end. The estimated crash position is in the sea, he said this afternoon. We believe the plane is at the bottom of the ocean. The search is being hampered by strong winds and heavy rain, the same weather that is the suspected cause of the missing aircraft's fate. The AirAsia jetliner had taken off from Surabaya in East Java, heading to Singapore. With intense storms along the route, the red areas on these satellite images. The pilot requested a deviation from the flight route and also to climb from 32,000 feet to 38,000. That was the last communication Indonesian Air Traffic Control received from the aircraft from somewhere between the island of Palau, Belitung and the city of Pontianak on Borneo. For families of the missing, there has been only the painful confirmation through posted passenger lists at Surabaya and in Singapore that their loved ones were on the plane. Only luck saved this man from being on the doomed airliner with a group of friends. I pray for a miracle, he says, and may God save all of them. He cancelled his trip to Singapore because of business. I have 2 friends on board, he laments, with 5 of their family members. AirAsia has been one of the success stories of air travel in the region, with, until now, a flawless safety record. Over the past decade, the budget carrier has stolen a large slice of the short-haul business from Southeast Asia's big-name airlines.
Our concern right now is for the relatives and for the next of kin. There is nothing more important to us for our crew's family and for the passengers' families, that we look after them.
Now, the owners and managers of AirAsia face the saddest task in the airline business, giving what comfort they can to the grieving and finding out what went wrong.
And on a related note, it is the second time that a plane has vanished in that region. Back in March, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 went missing with 270 passengers and 12 crew members. That plane is still missing. CNN's Jim Clancy looks at the similarities of the missing planes.
There are some disconcerting similarities between the AirAsia flight and MH370, but there are important differences as well. Flight 370 vanished from civilian radar less than an hour after it took off from Kuala Lumpur. The AirAsia flight likewise disappeared from tracking screens less than an hour after departure from Surabaya. Neither plane sent a distress call, but in the case of the Malaysian jetliner, it was a perfectly clear moonless night. The 162 passengers and crew of AirAsia 8501 were experiencing very bad weather. What sensationalized the case of the Malaysian jetliner's disappearance was that the search was pressed in the South China Sea for the better part of a week.
Breaking news here on CNN is the mystery of Flight 370.
CNN broke the news barely 48 hours after the plane had gone missing that Malaysia's own military radar showed It was gone from that area within an hour of takeoff. The government had hesitated. Critical information was withheld. Malaysia Airlines didn't tell families Flight 370 was even missing until the time it was supposed to be arriving in Beijing, many hours after it vanished. Families felt deceived. Many accused Malaysian authorities of a cover-up. Conspiracy theories exploded on the internet, even as officials were belatedly trying to set the record straight. Because weather couldn't be a factor for MH370, many of those theories centered on terrorism. Although no link to terrorism was ever uncovered, it was too late, and whatever information was released by Malaysian authorities seemed contradictory and meaningless. Most passengers were Chinese nationals, and China took the unusual step of allowing their families to take to the streets in protest. AirAsia appears to have learned lessons from the MH370 tragedy and moved quickly to inform families. Indonesia's transport ministry also responded. A passenger manifest and load list were online within hours. Critical questions remain. In the hours and days ahead, radar records and search efforts may yield answers for the families of AirAsia Flight 8501. The final similarity, neither plane had the kind of GPS locator so many experts advocated after the disappearance of MH370. Nearly 10 months later, that may be the lesson we haven't learned.
Meanwhile, rescue efforts continue on a passenger ferry that caught fire on its way to Italy. It's believed a fire broke out in the ship's garage. Hundreds of passengers are on board that ferry.
Billowing smoke, evidence of a fireball roaring through the inside of a packed ferry. For terrified passengers on board the Norman Atlantic, it's a battle to stay alive as menacing flames threaten to consume them. Some are using mobile phones to film the disaster as it unfolds. Whole rooms consumed by the inferno, furnishings and walls turned to ash. When the fire took hold on the ship's car deck, the 422 passengers, including 2 Australians and 56 crew, scrambled to the top deck. But this is a double nightmare. The ferry is also caught in the middle of a ferocious storm, battered by hail and winds of up to 100 kilometres an hour. Some passengers are so desperate, they've rung Greek television stations begging for help.
Το καράβι ακόμα καίγεται. Κάτω τα πατώματα βράζουνε. Από κάτω πρέπει να στις καμπίνες να γίνουν όλοι από τις 5 η ώρα.
One man died trying to jump off the ferry. Those who managed to get into lifeboats had to battle huge 6-metre waves, making the rescue mission almost impossible.
No one will be left helpless in this tough situation. It is one of the most complicated rescue operations we have ever done.
British passenger Nicholas Channing Williams managed to speak to his mother by phone.
What about you two? Are you two all right? Because he's there with his fiancée. And are you going to be able to get off that ship? And he said, I don't know.
Rescue helicopters were eventually able to pluck some passengers out in pairs. Nicholas was one of the lucky ones. A pregnant mother and her 2 children also among those airlifted to safety, treated for hypothermia at a nearby hospital. But for those who remain stranded, it's a life and death struggle against time and the elements.
And that terrifying ordeal wraps up our news segment tonight. But stay tuned, we've got True Guy Sports coming up next. Anticipation is growing as venues for the 2015 Games take shape. Lorraine Guinea with that report in True Guy Sports after the break.
True Guy Sports.
Welcome to True Guy Sports. 7 months away from what could prove to be Papua New Guinea's greatest sporting revolution, the process of construction on the venues and infrastructure throughout the city has started to raise the optimism of the general public. With the completion date set for May next year, the Games Village and the Tauranga Indoor and Aquatic Complex have started to take shape.
Throughout the year, Sports Minister Justin Chichenko and other stakeholders have time and time again given reassurance that venues will be completed. Now, with venues much like the Tarama Indoor and Aquatic Complex situated just behind me finally starting to take shape, views from the public portray excitement.
That would actually be an excitement, and we are all actually really thrilled to see that it is actually coming up.
Port Moresby's residents have been faithful observers of the current construction work taking place. The progress since early this year has exceeded the expectations of some, and their views on the completion date of venues are now in alignment with all stakeholders.
Side blow finishing off law display building suppose I think all company work law night na day na about law display because law display finish law slow vika day blow gap embakam right.
Through media conferences and other public staging, senior stakeholders with the likes of Minister Chichenko, Venues and Infrastructure Executive Committee members, Games Authority Chairman Costas Constantino and members of the Pacific Games Council, assurance and comfort has been continuously restored in the people of Papua New Guinea.
Looking at it, I think we should be really in time for it, and there should really be a good expectation from us, the people of PNG, to see that our people can be able to display that.
The venues alone are set to improve the country's current sporting status and in hindsight should add value to the city. Although the Pacific Games Council on their last visit said that venues will not be fully completed and renovated in time, the venues will be in usable condition. Lorraine Genia, National EMTV Sports.
It was an epic Christmas celebration in sports at the 9 Mile community in Port Moresby. More than 100 teams flocked the sports grounds just near the 9 Mile Cemetery over the weekend to a game of basketball, volleyball, rugby touch and soccer. Among the teams was a humble bunch from Koyari who were in form in soccer.
Unlike any other day, the community knows how to turn a blistering Port Moresby weekend into a fun-filled sporting day. Communities in and around the 9 Mile area, including Makana and Morabe Block, took part in volleyball, basketball, soccer and rugby touch.
Community allow us through because some of the game when aling on mama too, no mama can market, keep more community busy. Or young plan now we are looking no plan is park, no plan to drink beer and disturb the community. Or mama too will come take part in basketball and volleyball. Or keep more busy, or this like Christmas Eve.
It was the local Koyari team that grabbed the attention for the day. They came in as favorites, hoping to walk away winners. But unfortunately, their women's team was denied in the top 32 playoffs. But that didn't stop them from maintaining their winning tradition, as they were banking on their men's side who made it into the final playoffs.
The team name is Samika Sedihuke, and we believe that generation comes and goes, but the legend liveth. And it's like from the past, our elders and our clan leaders from the village, Mesime village, and from Sogeri as a Koyari, we still hold the title of soccer.
For others, especially the youth in the community, it was truly a positive social event that keeps them busy and away from illicit activities.
Most Christmas time, I say all man merry also busy to drink beer and smoke na round the street natin. Or put this like game, I say ML pim bla, lo come play na enjoy me play it Christmas.
And with NCD police coming down hard on an alcohol-free festive season, the youths in this particular area now know a better way to make positive use of their time. Tere Alex, National EMTV Sports.
As the 2015 Digicel Cup season draws near, the Goroka Lahanis players have started their preparation by participating in the off-season league. The Big Guns made their presence known in the Gahuku League over the weekend as an opener to their preparations. The Gahuku League stands as the main training avenue for the Lahanis while waiting for their official season training program to kick off early January next year.
Round 5 of the Gahuku League played over the weekend saw exceptional footy displayed from the Gahuku Select side, taking on Bena from the Ungay Bena district. It was indeed the big boys from the Goroka Bintago Lahanis who added some action not just for their extracurricular, but basically to gauge preparation and to be a team to beat in the 2015 Digicel Cup season. The Bena side was boosted by former Lahanis players Felix Tatsim, Kevin Inagafa and Robin Soga, adding the touch of Digicel Cup Russia footy. Despite the dull weather, the match was fairly competed, ending to a 10-all draw. Gahuku League President Simo Kilepa described the match noted the standard displayed. He said with the Lahanis on board, the game was brought up to another level, adding a taste of professional football, let alone the digital car pressure football, all throughout the duration of the games. Meanwhile, the Okapa district in the remote Eastern Islands province also celebrated the festive period with rugby league. It has become a tradition for the district to involve in the game leading up to the new year. The Pindogori Field, a colonial landmark, still brings together communities from around the Okapa district in the name of rugby league. It also ties the family and brings unity among warring families.